Hear now these words from our sacred scripture. From the third book of the First Testament, Leviticus, when immigrants live in your land with you, you must not cheat them. Any immigrant who lives with you must be treated as if they were one of your citizens. You must love them as yourself, because you were immigrants in the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt. And from the fifth book, Deuteronomy, Yahweh your God is the God of all gods and Lord of all lords, the great, mighty, and awesome God who does not play favorites and does not take bribes. Yahweh enacts justice for orphans and widows and loves immigrants, giving them food and clothing. That means you must also love immigrants because you were once immigrants in Egypt. From the prophet Isaiah, Yahweh proclaims, make just and faithful decisions, show kindness and compassion to each other. Do not oppress the widow, orphan, the stranger, and the poor. Do not plan evil against one another. And finally, the words of Jesus as found in the Gospel of Matthew. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. I assure you that when you have done it for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you have done it for me. May the Lord add the blessing to the reading of these words, and as well to the blessing of getting to hear our speaker. It was several months ago when some folks from our congregation excitedly came to tell me after worship about this new organization that had been featured in the local newspaper. And I was really excited to hear that Muncie, Indiana, was a city that cared about immigrants and refugees and wanted to help them come here, because I'm from Louisville, Kentucky, which is really known as a very welcoming city, and we have worked for years to bring immigrants and refugees to that city. And I was very excited to hear that that was happening here in Muncie. And of course, at that time, we were focusing our attention on trying to help, as I mentioned in the Young Disciples time, with the refugees to meet immediate needs as they were at Camp Atterbury. But as they are starting to leave now and go to their homes, we are turning our attention to how could we partner with this organization in Muncie, Muncie Afghan Refugee Resettlement Committee, MARC for short. And so it is with great pleasure that I was able to connect with Ari Hurwitz, and we had this fabulous conversation on Zoom, and he very eagerly accepted my invitation to come and share with all of you. So Ari, come on up to the pulpit and share what you have on your heart to tell us.
Thank you so much, Reverend Pamela, and thank you so much to the congregants at home here at Hazelwood Church. It's a great honor to be here. Doing the work with refugees, the greatest gift we can be given is to be able to spread this message, because when people say it takes a village, I think this is a very special case where it really does take our entire community, largely defined, broadly defined, to support these families. So my name is Ari Hurwitz. I am a member of the Board of Directors and the Leadership Committee of the Muncie Afghan Refugee Resettlement Committee, MARC. And we, I'll rewind a little bit. We are a subcommittee of Awaken, Inc. Awaken is a 501c3 nonprofit that Bibi Bahrami, a local Muncie citizen, started 20 years ago to focus on the needs of women and girls in Afghanistan, specifically for healthcare and for education in the most rural, underserved parts of the country. And they've done amazing work for 20 years. Started schools, started a maternal birthing center and mobile health clinics and all of that. So fast forward 20 years, and we all follow the news enough to know what happened months ago with the Taliban takeover in Afghanistan. With the U.S. airlift out with 75,000 Afghans, Awaken and Bibi saw a great opportunity to allow Muncie and Delaware County, but largely Muncie, to really focus on a need that we could be a big part of filling that worked so well with their original mission and expanded it. And so we got to work very, very quickly. We're a fully volunteer organization, and we ramped up to 15 committees because if you think of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we want to attend both to the survival needs and make sure that they have houses and food and security in that way. But as you might imagine, if you've been ripped out of your homeland and had to leave every single thing you've ever known, every person you've ever known, every connection, that social and community connection, as you get your feet under you, is at least as important. And so we really want to focus on all of those ways so that our commitment to them could be longer lasting than just what we provide in those first months. We have a health committee, wellness, nutrition committee, employment committee, education committee, all of these kinds of things. And it's been amazing, the volunteers that have gotten involved, the heart that people have. Some of us, like myself, volunteering over 50 hours a week in all variety of capacities. And so I think a lot of us feel that moral calling that, these are children of God, and the trauma that they've been through. And, if you also volunteer and get to work with some of the families a little bit more, the stories you hear are unlike anything that you could possibly imagine on the worst day of the worst year of the worst thing you could ever imagine in your life. I actually teared up quite a bit when Reverend Pamela was giving the message to the children because, unfortunately, we hear about that. We hear about, horrific stories about what happened to kids and grown-ups alike. So it's really difficult work, but a lot of people have responded to the call. There's also great benefits outside of that one that comes from our heart. Our mayor of Muncie and some businesses have been very involved because they see great economic benefit to the city for resettling refugees. And also, we like to think that it's kind of our patriotic duty as well because the majority, if not all of these refugee families, risk their lives for either our service people, our NGOs, or members of our State Department in doing the work that they were doing over there in Afghanistan. So if they were willing to do that, we feel it's the least we can do to really step up and say, we want to fulfill America's promise to provide safe passage into a new home here. We currently have 18 families, a total of about 58 to 60. I always get the number slightly wrong, so I always give myself some cushion. But about 60, we call them new neighbors, our new Afghan neighbors here, because we also don't want them to be defined by refugee status. So there are 60 here. Some of them have been here up to about 2 months now, and some of them moved in actually across the street on this block just last night, or what are we, Sunday, 2 nights ago. I'm sorry, 2 nights ago. And so they're in a variety of different places, settled all throughout Muncie. About 80% already have jobs for one member of the family at least. So the stories are as widely ranging as you could imagine. And that's where we all have to kind of understand that some of the things that even the most well-meaning people come in thinking about refugee families may or may not be true. About a third of our families have a member of the family who speaks pretty fluent English. About a third of the families have no member of their family who even speaks a word of English, and everywhere in between. I always give the example of our first 3 families who settled as kind of the wide-ranging, both members of people who come here as refugees, but also just the cruelty of the Taliban and how no one is safe, really. The first gentleman who came was from a very remote rural area and had provided support for the U.S. military as a minesweeper for 4 years. And based on kind of the need, when you hear some of these stories, for immediate exit, was forced to leave without his wife and 7 children. And because he's from a rural area, he has very limited contact with them. We have another gentleman in the same situation who was forced to leave also without his wife and 7 children. He had provided security support for the U.S. military, again in a rural area. And when you hear his story, he got a call from the military saying, we can get you out. You need to come to Kabul now, like get here now. And his wife was 7.5 months pregnant. And again, in that situation, you're making this decision. Do I bring the family? My wife's pregnant, very late in the pregnancy. Do we take a chance that we can get them out? Maybe I could come back. And so he made that decision because he didn't want to risk his wife's health. And then unfortunately, when he got to Kabul, was put on the plane. Literally, the military said, great, I'm glad you're here. We can save your life. Get out. And so he's had very limited contact. Actually, it was a great kind of gift from God this week because he had gone 2 months without being able to use WhatsApp. If any of you have ever used that to get in touch with his family. And they finally were able to find an internet connection somewhere near the village he's in. And he was able to make contact with his kids and his wife for the first time in 2 months. I have 3 kids. I can't even imagine what that would be like. I'd be going through some very, very serious stuff. But on the other side of it, we also have a family who the father in that family was one of the lead prosecutors in Kabul for crimes against women and had worked as a negotiator for the State Department, is very, very well educated, speaks fluent English, writes and reads fluent English. Another gentleman who worked in economic development in the presidential palace. And so you have all walks of life, and the commonality, unfortunately, in each of their stories is just the cruelty of the Taliban and how immediate it was, the need to get out because of the danger they were in and their families were in for the support they gave the United States. The gentleman, this is the family I know the best, the gentleman I mentioned who worked in the presidential palace, again, well-educated, had traveled abroad, has an MBA. He and his wife have 2 little girls, ages 5 and 2, who we've befriended. We actually went swimming at the Y with them yesterday, since the YMCA generously donated a free 1-year membership to all the families. He was telling me the story of how he left. And he said, again, just the kind of mental gymnastics you had to do. He said, first my wife was ill. I went to the airport, and he said, just like you saw in the news, it was chaos, 1,000 people, 2,000 people trying to push in. And he said, I didn't even know that would be the case, so I didn't get anywhere close that first day. He said, I tried to navigate it again a second day. So it was not until the 4th day that he was able to get close, and he said that God was kind of with him that day because it was the first day his wife felt well enough to come, so that was the day they got out. And it was just another one of those stories by happenstance, by chance of God, by God's work. If he had gotten out one of those first 3 days, he might have had to leave his family as well, and he says, I think about it every day, that God was with us that 4th day that we were able to get out, and we were with together as a family. But as he describes it, he said, we didn't know how chaotic it would be. So we, came loaded with bags. Let's try to get 7 bags out, 6 bags, 4 bags, because we'll never see our stuff again. We'll never see the rest of our family again and all of this. And he said, so the girls were walking next to us. We were kind of holding their hands and loaded down. And he said the worst experience of his life. He said the crowd pushed, and his 2.5-year-old daughter, who is just the most vibrant, intelligent, brave girl, got kind of stepped on and pushed under. Sorry. And he said there were about 4 minutes where they couldn't find her. And they didn't know what to do, and people were crushing them from all sides. And he said they finally found her. Someone kind of picked her up. And he said, we just dropped everything. We picked up our 2 girls, and we dropped every bag we had, and we just said, we need to get help. And I was talking to him as they moved into their new home here. I said, is this a moment for you? You finally have some stability. And he said, yeah, but he said the greatest moment of our life was when the plane took off, and we had been gone for long enough where we knew if there was an issue, we would not turn back. We would land somewhere else. And so just the trauma that people have dealt with is so vast, and the resiliency is unlike anything I've ever seen. I know when I have a bad day or a bad week, I just want to take Saturday off and hide in the covers, and to see some of these folks, the moment they get here, when can we start working? When can the kids get in school? Education's so important. We just had a wonderful partnership with Delaware County Football Club and Dick's Sporting Goods, so all the kids and grown-ups who want to could get involved in local soccer, and the smiles on the faces and the attitude, just how positive and how giving and thoughtful everybody is harrowing. Like Reverend Pamela said, we have lofty goals. Our original goal was 50 or more families, but the United States government, for good reason, has really ramped up the schedule in trying to clear out the refugee camps so people have homes. So we're thinking at least 30 at this point is our hope. We currently, as I said, have 18 families. We have a number coming in this week, actually. We have another family coming in, and there are about 4 more that we know are coming in over the next month, and then we'll have other families after that. So what Mark does, what we do, is our pledge is for 6 months of material support. It's a large task. We've estimated, and it's give or take, because we have some single people, and then we have a family of 9 and a family of 8, and so it's a lot more. But our estimate for the budget, it's about $10,000 or more to support a family for 6 months, and those are really just with the basics: paying the housing deposit, paying for 6 months of rent, 6 months of utilities, providing food for the first 4 to 6 weeks before SNAP benefits kick in, some incidentals with a registration here or there, that kind of thing. So it's a tremendous fundraising task, as you might imagine. We could all do the math: 30 families times, at least $10,000. But it's what we've researched, 6 months really being that key time period when families are coming over, again, having lost everything, having no community connection, social connection, what have you, to be able to establish themselves and really become a part of a shared community, and get their feet under them and get jobs and that kind of thing. I've talked to friends just even about how once you get a job, not having savings, not having anything. What if something happens and we all say, oh, well, we don't want to deplete our savings, but we'll do a little bit, and they have nothing. So we're trying to help them out. We keep learning more. Every day, you might imagine, working with refugees, you learn more, and you think about things like, well, what happens after 6 months if they have a job, but there's nothing in the bank account? What if something happened? So we're constantly looking for new ways to support. But our pledge is for those 6 months, and then beyond that, with educational support and community support and all of that. But right now, fundraising is such a big task for us. So I don't actually have the clicker. I didn't grab that, so someone's going to have to. Oh, it's right here. Hey, thank you so much. Sorry about that interruption. I should have had that up the whole time. I'm sorry. But how people can help, and we'd love for everyone to help as they can. There are 2 really huge ways you can help, and so I'm going to talk about the human one first because it's really important, because when I said it takes a village, it takes a community, it really does. We have a tremendous amount of volunteers, and we can never have enough. So I'm going to go to the next slide real quick. Can you force it to move to the next one? There we go. So, we went one. Oh, no. The volunteer one. Let me see. That one, yep, thank you. Oh, no. Just one more if we can. Thank you so much. So the first part is volunteering. If you are a person who has time and you're able to, whether it's 1 hour and you say, well, I can only volunteer and it's got to be Saturday morning, or if you say, hey, I'm retired and I have all the time in the world, or I have specific time periods, it's wonderful. The thing we need most generally right now are volunteer drivers. As you might imagine, one of the families said something to me yesterday, and it was tremendous, and I thought, oh, wow, yeah, you're right. They said, being in America, it's worse to be without a car than without food, because anyone will give you food. And I thought, wow, what would life be like if you had no transportation for anything and you didn't know anybody to pick you up? So we have a volunteer driver corps. If you're willing to be a part of that, that would be exceptional. We'd love to get you involved in that. We also need folks to help us set up homes and furniture and stuff to help people move in. That would be great. Those are our 2 most general volunteer opportunities. We also have the opportunity, we match each of the families up with a welcome family and a surrogate grandparent. They have no one here, and so we try our best to connect them with a family that will not only act as their friend and their family, but also their emergency connection and those types of things. So if that's something you think your family can do, it's a tremendous opportunity. The families who've done it, it's certainly not easy, but they also say it's the most rewarding thing that they've done, and the time they spend together is amazing, and the stories we hear just keep us going every day. Also, if you we started the surrogate grandparent program because we had some older people in Muncie, community members who said, yeah, I can't be I don't have the, kind of the energy and all of this to put in the commitment to be the Welcome family, but I'd love to be a part of the Welcome family. And so we started that program. So those are tremendous. And then honestly, so many of the cool things that we've done and the connections we've made are through people coming to us and letting us know what volunteer opportunities we never knew we needed. Skills you have, experiences you have. We right now are starting a sewing class, through someone who came forward and said, we'd like to donate brand new sewing machines and I would love to run a sewing class. So we said, oh, now we need other people who are free from 10 a.m. to noon on Tuesdays to help run the sewing class. So some of them we don't know, so you can get in touch with those with us. We also created this menu. We understand that not everybody can just give $10,000, so if you have that opportunity, please. So we wanted to make it really concrete. We are a 501c3, so donations are tax deductible, and we're all volunteers, so every single dollar given goes directly to support of these families. And so we wanted to make this, and this is on our website, which I'll show you at the end as well, so that people can know. If you can give $25 or $1,000 or $100, it will go to very specific things that will help a family out. I might need a 4th slide move here. One more. Yeah, so this is some of the information. And the other thing we asked for is community connections. Some of the greatest partnerships we've had, not just financial, not just large donations, but also wonderful community partnerships have come through connections that volunteers or people in the community have had and said, oh, I'm on this board, I'm a member of this community organization, we'd love to partner in this way, and those kinds of things. So also, we'd love to hear from you if you think an organization you're involved with would like to be a part of this endeavor. As you can see on this, online, www.awakeninc.org/mark. That is our website. That'll give you more information and also give you ways to give both by check and by credit card. I encourage you to contribute as generously as you feel you can, and also to share this widely, not just to your friends and family locally, but we found a lot of people across the country are looking for a local, not necessarily local to them, but local to someone they know, opportunity to help refugees. And we've seen people who've said, my mom actually said, oh, I've been giving to this organization that, is kind of a national organization, but I don't know where the money goes. And so I'd love for Muncie to be my thing because you live there, and now I can hear stories. I know where it's going. So if you'd be willing, that'd be great if you could donate. And then our markfundraising@gmail.com. Although it says fundraising, that's kind of our general ask questions. I answer that email. So whether you want to volunteer and you say, oh, I heard you, RA, I want to volunteer. I have a question about donating. I have a question about partnership, whatever. Please email us at marrcfundraising, markfundraising@gmail.com. I appreciate this very much. If you have questions, I know I can't be available after the service because we're virtual, but I would love to answer any questions. Please feel free to email us. And again, I just want to thank you so much for the ability to spread this message. It's everything to be able to get in touch with as many people as possible, and we thank you. Thank you so much.